There was a phrase in the Bible so small you could walk straight past it. 2 words. That is all it is. A carpenter says them, quietly, in a dusty street, and a crowd bends down and starts picking up stones. He says them again, in a garden, at night. And a squad of armed soldiers staggers backward and falls to the ground. He says them to a grieving woman outside a tomb, and a dead man walks out into the light. 2 small words, said over and over, 7 times on purpose, and more besides. Most people read right over them and never feel a thing, but the people who first heard them knew exactly what he was doing. That is why they reached for the stones, because those 2 words were never his to say. They belonged to one voice, from one fire, on one mountain, 1,000 years before he was ever born. The 2 words are these: I am. In Greek, ego eimi. In Hebrew, they point back to the name so holy no one dared to speak it. 7 times, in a single gospel, he takes that name and finishes the sentence with something you can hold in your hand: bread, light, a door, a road home. Stay with me, and by the end, you will see the one thread running through every one of them. Not 7 separate slogans, but a single claim, said 7 quiet ways. It is the boldest thing anyone in the Bible ever says, and he says it so gently that most people miss it entirely, and it begins nowhere near him. It begins with a shepherd, a desert, and a bush that would not stop burning. Go back with me about 1,300 years, before any of this. A man named Moses is on the far side of a wilderness, keeping someone else's sheep. He is 80 years old, and his best days are behind him. Or so he believes. And then he sees it. A bush wrapped in flame and somehow not burning up. He turns aside to look closer, and a voice calls his name straight out of the fire. God tells him to go back to Egypt and lead an enslaved people out to freedom. And Moses asks the question anyone would ask. When they ask me who sent me, what is your name? It is a fair question. Every god in Egypt had a name, and the answer that comes out of the fire is unlike anything anyone had ever heard. I am who I am. Tell them, the voice says, that I am has sent you. Not a description, not a title. A name that is simply pure being. The one who always is, and always was, and cannot not be. Every other name points to something. This name points to nothing but itself. I am, full stop. From those words came the sacred name of God. 4 Hebrew letters. The people would not even let cross their lips. When they read it aloud in the scroll, they said a different word instead. The name itself was too holy for the human tongue. Hold that in your mind and hold it tightly, because everything else depends on it. The name that means I am. The name so weighty that a devout Jew would not let it cross his lips. Keep it close as we go forward. Now come forward 1,000 years, to a crowded hillside in Galilee, where a young teacher is about to pick that name up and wear it as his own. It starts with a hungry crowd, 5,000 of them on a green hillside with nothing to eat. And he takes 5 small loaves and 2 fish and feeds every last one of them with baskets of leftovers piled up after. The crowd goes wild. Here is a man who can pull bread out of nothing. They want to make him king by force. So the next morning they chase him all the way around the lake, hoping for breakfast. And he says something that stops them cold. You are not looking for me. You are only looking for the bread. Then he reaches for a story every single one of them knew by heart. Their ancestors in the desert with Moses. No fields, no harvest, only sand in every direction. And every morning the ground was covered with a fine white flake, like frost on the desert floor. They called it manna, which is really just the old Hebrew for, what is it? Bread from heaven. Enough for each new day, falling out of the sky for 40 years. The crowd loved that story. "So give us that," they said. "Give us bread like Moses gave." And here he corrects them, very gently, and everything quietly tips over. "It was never Moses who gave you that bread," he says. "It was my Father, and my Father is still giving it right now." Then the two words, "I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never go hungry again." Do you hear what he has done? The manna kept you alive for one more day, and then you needed more. He is saying, "I am not the bread that runs out by nightfall. I am the bread your soul has been starving for your whole life. The hunger underneath all your other hungers. The one no meal ever quite fills. The restlessness that is still there after the plates are cleared." He says he is the answer to that one. The second one he says at a festival, at night, in the temple courts. And you need to know what was happening all around him as the words came out. During this feast, the priests lit enormous golden lamps in the temple courtyards. They blazed so brightly, the old teachers said, that the whole city of Jerusalem seemed to glow, and those lamps were a memory of the wilderness again. Because when God led the slaves out of Egypt, he did not send them alone. He went in front of them himself, a pillar of cloud by day, and by night, a pillar of fire to give them light. Fire that walked ahead of them through the dark, so that they were never once lost. So picture it, the great lamps burning, the old memory of the fire, the whole festival crowd watching him, and into all that light he says it. "I am the light of the world." Not a light, not a bright teacher with a few good ideas. The light of the whole world. "Whoever follows me," he says, "will never have to walk in darkness again." He is claiming to be the fire out front, the one that leads you home through the longest night, and reach back further still, to the very first page of the Bible, before the sun even exists, where God speaks light into the dark. He is reaching all the way back to that. "I am that light," he says. The first thing, the thing that pushes back the dark. The third saying is the humblest picture of them all. A gate. To feel it, you have to picture a sheepfold. A low stone wall out on the open hills. At night, the shepherd drives the sheep inside, and then lies down across the one gap in the wall. His own body becomes the door. Nothing gets into the sheep except over him. That is the picture behind his words. "I am the door of the sheep. If anyone enters through me," he says, "he will be saved. He will go in and out and find green pasture." A door is a small, plain thing, but a door is everything if you are the one standing outside in the cold. He is not a wall you admire from a safe distance. He is the way in. Safety, belonging, a place to finally lie down. He says the opening is his own self. There is one way into the fold, and he is standing right in it, with his arms held open, not blocking the door, being the door. The gap in the wall where the cold stops and the warmth begins. He is barely finished before the picture grows. From the gate to the one who guards it. "I am the good shepherd," he says. And the good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. Now, calling God a shepherd was nothing new. It was the most comforting picture Israel owned. Every child could sing it. "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He leads me beside still waters, and even through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil." But there was a darker version of that picture too, from the prophet Ezekiel. Israel's leaders were supposed to be the shepherds, and they had failed. They fed themselves and let the whole flock scatter. So God made a promise. "I myself will search for my sheep," he said. "I will go out and seek them and find them." God said it plainly. "The shepherds failed you, so I am coming down to do the job myself." And now, here is a man on a Galilean hillside saying, "I am that shepherd, the good one, the one who came looking for you." But then he adds something no ordinary shepherd would ever dream of saying. A hired shepherd runs from the lion to save his own skin. The shepherd, he says, dies in the sheep's place instead. I know my own, he says, and my own know me. Not a flock, not a head count, known one by name. The God who promised, in the pages of the prophet, to come looking for the scattered and the lost. He says that shepherd is not a distant promise anymore. He is standing right in front of you, with a crook in his hand and your name already on his lips. The fifth one, he says, with a fresh grave right in front of him. His friend Lazarus is dead, 4 days dead, already sealed inside the tomb, and the dead man's sister meets him out on the road, with her heart broken in two. If you had only been here, she says, my brother would not have died. He tells her, your brother will rise again, and she nods sadly, yes, at the very end, on the last day. She believed, as many did, that God would raise the dead someday, far off in the distant future. And he takes that far off someday and pulls it all the way into the present, into himself. I am the resurrection and the life. Not, I will bring it one day. I am it, standing here. Whoever believes in me, he says, though he die, yet shall he live. Resurrection is not just an event on some distant calendar, he is saying. It is a person, and that person is here. Then he walks up to the tomb, and he calls a man who is 4 days dead out by his name. And Lazarus comes out, still wrapped in his grave clothes, blinking, alive. He did not merely talk about beating death. He did not offer a comforting theory about the afterlife. There, in front of everyone, with a cold tomb standing open, he simply did it. The sixth one comes on his very last night, in a borrowed upstairs room with his closest friends. He knows he is about to die, and they are frightened, though they do not fully understand why yet. I am going to prepare a place for you, he tells them, and you already know the way there. And one of them, Thomas, says out loud what they are all thinking. We do not even know where you are going. How can we know the way? And the answer he gives is the boldest sentence spoken in that room. I am the way, and the truth, and the life. Not, I will show you a way. Not, I will teach you the truth. I am it, all of it, myself. And then the line people still argue over to this very day. No one comes to the Father except through me. Every other teacher in history pointed away from himself, toward a path. Follow this, they said. Do these things, and you may arrive. He points at his own chest and says, I am the road home. I am the door in the wall. Walk through me. It is either the most arrogant thing a man has ever said, or he is simply telling the truth about who he is. There is no comfortable middle option. You cannot file him away as a nice teacher who said some wise things. Not after a sentence like that. The seventh and last one, he says as they walk out into the night, maybe past the sleeping vineyards. I am the true vine, he says, and my Father is the gardener. And once again, he is picking up an old picture, worn smooth by centuries. Israel had always been God's vine. You brought a vine up out of Egypt, the psalm sang, and you planted it. God planted a vineyard on a fertile hill, the prophet Isaiah said. He cleared away the stones and waited for good grapes. And it broke his heart, because the vine ran wild and gave him nothing but sour, worthless fruit. That was the sad story every listener carried inside them. Israel, the vine that let God down. And into that old grief he says, I am the true vine, the one that finally does what the vine was always meant to do. Stay joined to me, he tells them. A branch cut off from the vine can do nothing at all. It just withers. But a branch that stays connected, that one is flooded with life, and it bears fruit almost without trying. He is not asking you to grit your teeth and try harder. He is asking you to stay joined to the source. The fruit was never the point of the striving. The fruit is what happens naturally to a branch that simply refuses to let go of the vine. So there they are, 7 times. 7 I am sayings. Bread when you are starving. Light when you are lost in the dark. A gate when you are shut outside. A shepherd when you are hunted. Resurrection at the graveside. A road when you are far from home. A vine when you have run completely dry. 7 different pictures. But every single one of them opens with the same 2 words. And those 2 words are the thread. Because there is another set of I am sayings in this same gospel. And these ones come with no picture attached at all. Go back to that dusty street, and the crowd already bending for the stones. He is arguing with people who are proud of one thing above everything else, that they are the children of Abraham. Abraham, their great father, dead and buried for 2,000 years. And he says something impossible. Your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day. He saw it, and he was glad. They laugh in his face. You are not even 50 years old, and you claim you have seen Abraham? And here he drops the pictures completely. No bread, no light, no gate. Just the 2 words, standing alone and bare. Truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was, I am. Listen carefully to the grammar. Not, before Abraham was, I was. Before Abraham even existed, I am. Present tense. Right now. The exact words from the burning bush. The name too holy to speak. And they understood him perfectly. That is the whole point. They did not reach for stones because he was confusing. They reached for stones because they knew precisely what he had just said. In their minds, a man had just spoken the unspeakable name and pointed it straight at himself. To them, that was the worst thing a human mouth could do. It was blasphemy. And blasphemy in that street on that day was worth killing for. And then, the very last time, on the night he is betrayed, in a dark garden of olive trees, soldiers come for him with torches and weapons, a whole detachment of them moving through the trees. He steps forward to meet them and asks, "Who are you looking for?" "Jesus of Nazareth," they answer. And he says 2 words, "I am he." In the Greek, it is just that, ego eimi, I am. And watch what happens next. The soldiers, armed, trained, sent there to arrest one unresisting man. They drew back and fell to the ground. He did not lift a single hand. He did not run. He said the name, and a squad of soldiers went down like a wave. Just a flicker of who he really is. 2 small words, and the men sent to seize him could not keep their feet. And then he lets them arrest him anyway. That is the part that undoes you. The one who could flatten a whole squad with a whisper holds his own hands out for the ropes. On purpose. He was never overpowered. From first to last, he was giving himself away. And that changes how you read every gentle I am that came before it. So now stand back and look at the whole thing all at once. 7 times he takes the holy name and fills it with something for you. Bread, light, the gate, the shepherd, life over death, the way, the vine. And underneath all 7, twice more, he says it with nothing added at all. I am, before Abraham. In the garden. That is the thread you were promised. Every one of those sayings is the same claim, said 7 gentle ways, and 2 thunderous ones. The voice in the bush that would tell Moses nothing but I am, is the same voice on the hillside saying, I am the bread, I am the light, I am the door you have been looking for. The holiest name in the universe, the one they would not even say out loud. Put on a pair of sandals and walked around Galilee and let ordinary people share his lunch. And here is the quiet turn at the very center of it all. He does not take that name to tower over you. He takes it to reach down to you. The name means, I always am. Present. Never absent. Not a God who was back then in the old stories. A God who is, right now, in the present tense of your actual life. And every single picture he attaches to that name is something a person in need reaches for. If you are starving, he says, I am bread. If you are lost, I am light. If you are shut out, I am the door. If you are hunted, I am the shepherd. If you are standing at a grave, I am the resurrection and the life. If you have wandered far, I am the way home. If you are dried up and empty, stay joined to me, the vine, and live. Whatever the gap is in your life tonight, whatever the empty place is that you rarely say out loud, he claims to be the exact shape of it. Not a general comfort, the precise thing you are missing. That is the boldest thing anyone has ever said. And he said it, not with a shout, but with two small words, over and over, until someone finally noticed. So the next time you read them, those two little words hiding in plain sight, remember the bush that would not stop burning, and remember what the soldiers did when he said them in the dark. And then, remember the strangest thing of all, that the voice from the fire, the name too holy to speak, the presence that put a squad of soldiers on the ground, still bends down close enough to say two small words to one ordinary person. He is still saying them. I am. Present tense. Right now. To you.